shot right out here? And we'll just have enough?
Yeah, I had a crack in the, just ran on top of it.
Repairs to the backhoe. Was that one of the items we decided we were gonna get some more light out of?
Yeah, it is a very unusual repair. So somehow there's metal fragments in the hydraulic system, and it took out the valve line. I mean, on a 20-year-old machine, that'd be an unusual repair. A 4-year-old machine.
That's 4-year-old. The backhoe.
It only has 1,100 hours on it.
Yeah.
It's pretty new. That was this one as well.
Water loss seems to be holding in there at the,
It was up slightly, although,
from 15 to 17, 18.
yeah, our gallonage is still improving. I hope we've hit the bottom on consumption, so. There's a lot of, Ben, of course, Regard does a good job of tracking the new construction flushing. And so we get a pretty accurate number on that. Even I was a little surprised on new construction, how much flushing we're having to do to get two systems for an individual to put in line. It's quite good.
Any other questions on the board meeting payables or on the financials? Okay, if not, I'll make a motion to approve the payables in the amount of $521,861.44 and the financial statements as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Invoices and financials are approved. Item 6 is our customer form. I have to read that. That was not all I did. The only part I remember is that the participants are asked to keep their statements brief and bring the statements to the board or the management ahead of time so they can be adequately researched. Do we have anybody? No one here. No one here for custom form. Item number 7, Bev Stevenson. Join us at the table.
Last month I had read the email to those of you that were here. If you weren't here, would like me to know. She was just, I was in here wanting to follow up on Royce's sick payout. He passed away in October, and Royce had worked here for 19 years and worked towards making his sick time, so it was a maximum upon payout. And in her email, it was that, he fired, he didn't get fired, he didn't quit, he's permanently retired. And so she just wanted to discuss that and she's here today to follow up on this, on that, the payout and follow through on that, so.
So first, Bev, if I could, just continue to express our deep sympathies for your loss. It was very sudden, it was tragic, and a big loss for the department is what we were highly regarded employee. So she gave me our sympathy. I know this is a difficult topic, so we'll work through it.
Thank you.
I did talk to Kelly about this earlier today, and you know, I'm sure it's been explained to you, we're in a little bit of a bind the way our policy is written. So if we do anything, we're going to have to consider what we do with our policy, and that could take a little time.
Is this a good time for me to say something?
Yes.
So, and I know it's kind of in the email that no one expected this to happen. Royce planned to retire. He had talked to Kelly. Kelly's probably one of the reasons he didn't retire in June when he could have. He enjoyed working here, and he had hoped to possibly retire soon and then take the 6 months off and then come back and work weekends to help out. And for health insurance, it was just something that they had talked about. And I wanted Royce to retire so bad. I tried to get him to retire early. I even wanted him to use the sick days, and he would say, you know, there's somebody, we're short-staffed today, or it's a holiday, I can't do that to somebody else, or I've got a report I need to write. He was just so loyal to the job, and I guess I just want to show him respect by being here and asking for this, because it was something he was looking forward to. He thought he would retire, and we plan to travel, and, you know, plans that you make. And I guess I'm just asking you to look at it from our perspective, how you would feel if you were in our shoes, how you would feel about it if it were your family member, what you would expect or what you would hope for them. I did write down here that I would give anything if he'd used every one of those sick days, if we'd had a little more time with him. You know, you just don't know when these things are going to happen. Again, I know this is, you know, I think when this was written, no one expected. You expect somebody to quit, you potentially might get fired, but you don't expect someone to go to work one day and not come home.
Right.
And his intention was to retire, so.
Can we be refreshed on how the policy's written?
It was changed a few years ago on accrued sick leave, that you had to enter a bona fide retirement to receive a payout on sick days. And I think it was a percentage, right? 20 years it paid 100%, at 15 years it was 75%, 10 years was 50%.
50, 75.
Yeah, 50, 75, 100. And the board at that time, I believe it was 2016, is that right, had changed it to the only way you could get paid the accrued sick leave on that schedule was you had to enter a IPERS retirement. And I'm sure, I don't know, sure they weren't there at the time, but I know, you know, we all know accumulated time, our auditors are all hitting us on it. You know, it's a thing we all need to be cognizant of, because you have to basically have funding for it. You know, I've been with one entity that actually didn't have the funding if everybody quit on the same day. I don't think it was the intent of the board then to, they just didn't see this scenario happen.
Right.
And I know there has been effort, and the thing I talked to Brad on is for things between here and the city to be consistent, you know, trying to get to the same thing, and that's the city, so I looked theirs up, and theirs is, you pay out at a different rate for city employees accumulate more time than ours do. They're paid out at a lower percentage. But the one thing the city does have is, if employed full-time at the time of death, regardless of the length of service, payment to the employee's beneficiary is provided employees' life insurance policy provided by the city. The city does pay out in the time of death. And you guys
Can you read
have,
that one more time? Because I heard life insurance, and so I wanted to see.
it's payable to the person who the employee named as beneficiary on their life insurance. That's how they determine who they pay it to.
Okay.
And the city has 2 tiers of after July 1 of 2008, it's a lower percentage than prior. You have 2 tiers on it. So it's,
Kelly or Crystal, in a normal retirement situation, what's that look like? How soon
Well,
they
so
get
had
it?
he retired that day, he would have been paid 75% of his 720 hours that was
Right
accumulated.
away.
I mean,
You guys-
entering into the bona fide IPERS, I would have signed off on the IPERS paper, and that would have been going, and yes, then it would have been paid out, and I wouldn't have questioned it because of the way it read. I mean, and prior to, and Royce said he'd been here for 19 years, so when he started, it was like, it was incentive to not use your sick time, and so that's,
but any employee we hire now, it doesn't matter, what's our
They can-
latest tier, what's the date?
well,
Anybody hired after what date?
January 1st, 2016.
Anybody hired after January 1st, 2016, it doesn't matter anyway, we don't get paid out any time.
No.
Like if I stayed here 20 years, I don't get paid out.
Right.
So
It would be
this-
there
So this
to
applies
use.
to how many
There's
current
5
employees you
people
still have?
left, 5
There's
people
5
that
people.
would fall under.
So one of the things we did in 16 was we capped it, we capped it at a certain number of hours.
It has always been 720 hours.
720 is where,
It has always been. Yep. The only thing that we changed, I mean, the payout was the same. It was just upon the bona fide IPERS retirement, and then anybody from January 1st of 16 forward just can accumulate it to use it, but it's not paid out once they leave, retire, whatever.
and the attorney has looked at it and commented both ways that we need to be careful with it.
Right, and so I
Because of the way the
contacted.
policy's written.
Yeah, I contacted David and said, according, you want me to read his email or?
Please.
Yeah, please.
So, and I had asked him to send this just so I didn't get something mixed up, but to confirm our conversation about this matter, I note that your handbook speaks on page 13 relative to sick leave that accrued sick leave will be paid to an employee hired before January 1st, 2016 who enters a bona fide IPERS retirement pursuant to, or bona fide retirement pursuant to IPERS, Iowa Code, Chapter 97B, and Iowa Administrative Code, Section 495-11.5. Section 97B.1A of the Iowa Code states, it's number 6, bona fide retirement means a retirement by an invested member which meets requirements of Section 97B.52A and in which the member is eligible to receive benefits under this chapter. Code Section 97B.52A then states 97B.52A eligibility for benefits, bona fide retirement. 1. A member has a bona fide retirement when the member terminates all employment covered under the chapter or formerly covered under the chapter pursuant to Section 97B.42. Files a completed application for benefits form with the system, survives into the month for which benefits are first payable, and meets the following applicable requirements. Seems to me on a personal level that it would be fair to pay the sick leave in this situation, but a strict reading of the code would not support that result, since 97B.52A requires that one survives into the month for which benefits are first paid. Do you have any questions on these? So.
For the policy, you mentioned what the intent was. It wasn't
Yeah.
this, obviously. Could a policy change be made retroactive to a period of time, meaning that it was meant to include this situation? Right? We just gotta do the right thing here. And I'm gonna vote. This is when we just have to do the right thing.
Would guess that we're all on the same page.
We figured out some mechanics to get
Yeah,
there.
some time to get our policy
Yeah,
correction.
it's not an actual item today, but we could get the policy updated to reflect that and have it
Next meeting.
Yeah. And make it retroactive. I think that's very good.
We should probably amend our policy at some time to
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that's what we'll have to do is amend our policy and say it's retroactive.
Fair enough?
Thank you.
I got one question. Does it all fall on the burden of the water department, or is there any other departments involved in his tenor of employment?
On the, yeah, so, I mean, the employee was being paid as
I see what you're
wastewater, yeah. And then, but that was just for like the last 5 years, pretty much, I think, through the 28E agreement. So I don't know which department, but I think we'll have to get that, if it's a 50-50 split, or, you know, because he would have accumulated some of that time.
Prorated share based on his years of service.
Yeah, I don't know how you.
Water department.
if he would have retired, what would that have looked like? It would be the same.
Well, I hadn't crossed that bridge.
Yeah,
I guess I would have had to, I would have had to.
How that was gonna break down, yeah, so.
But-
So he was
But
here
it's
almost
still
20
in there.
years, and he was 15 years as the water plant operator, and he went to the sewer plant, because he was one of the few people that had a license, so. I would suggest a prorated split of some time, based on his years of service or something along those lines.
We can make that part of the discussion.
Okay.
We'll do that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
This was his life for 19 years, so he enjoyed it.
We'll do the right thing.
Thank you.
We miss him.
So the water department also has a life insurance policy, I assume, as well.
Our benefits are close to each other, but there's still a few discrepancies, like that, there's quite a difference. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Agenda item 8. Public hearing for amending the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. It's the current fiscal year. So I need a motion to open the public hearing. So okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded to open public hearing. In favor? Aye. Public hearing is open for input on the 2019-2020 budget.
I had no comments for the meeting.
Okay. Then, in this case, anyone in the audience, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the 1920 budget. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Public hearing is closed. Item 9, consideration discussion of budget amendment. I'm looking at this right. We're going to increase revenue. We're going to decrease expenses.
It's a good thing to be able to do once in a while.
A lot of moving parts, but we
Yeah,
kind of adjusted the CIP schedule.
Yeah, we pulled some equipment purchases off.
Contribution for the MSO project is reflected in this.
Just a couple of salaries down, there have been staffing changes prior to budget. So we did that.
And there were a lot of moving from one line in the budget to others, being on the health insurance.
Yeah, we tried to split our employee costs. It used to all be carried on administrative. We tried to split it amongst the moving parts of the department. Distribution, plant production, and administrative. So we can, well, just more accurately reflect what kind of money we're dedicating to each part of it.
So our revenues, we bumped those up by $302,500. Total expenses including CIP, yeah, we're actually bumping those up, $174,925. Should take us from an original budgeted net loss, $199,536, reduces that down to $79,961.
We're still deficit, but
Yes.
it's not as bad as
I'm only gonna ask one question, because I missed the whole meetings. I don't get to ask more. Other organizations I'm on will not approve a budget that's a deficit. We don't have that issue here.
It's a deficit for the year, it's gonna draw down cash
It's
reserves.
drawing down your cash reserve.
I totally get that. I'm just saying, I serve on other boards that will not approve a deficit.
Well, I think for your general fund stuff, I don't know that you're benefit to unless you're borrowing money, but then you can show it coming in and out.
If there's a plan,
I mean, if you have cash on hand, I mean, there has to be a way to put cash on hand into a budget, yeah.
I totally understand, I'm just asking the question.
If it's intentional, it's okay.
Right.
Most of the boards.
It's not a budget if it doesn't balance, right?
Right.
You want it balanced.
It's about a 3-hour discussion on my other board, so just asking a question.
Good question. Does anyone have any other questions on the amended 1920 budget? No other discussion, I'll introduce a motion to approve the amended 2019-2020 budget as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now, item 10 is a public hearing for the next fiscal year, 2020-2021. I will make a motion to open the public hearing for the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2020-21.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Anything submitted on next year's budget?
No comments submitted?
Okay. Since no comments have been submitted, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
That was a motion.
Oh,
Okay.
so moved.
I'll
Yes,
second.
that motion
Yeah,
was said.
I'll second. Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Public hearing is closed. Consideration and discussion of the 2021 budget. In your worksheet there, Crystal, you're comparing, is that the original
That's what you
1920?
just approved.
That's the one, that's the amended 2020.
Yes.
Amended
Amended, that is
1920.
Comparing the
Yep.
amended 1920 to
To
the
what-
proposed.
correct.
2020. So the decrease in overall revenues, meaning we're not going to have that miscellaneous income. Right?
Correct.
Also a decrease in metered sales, reduced volume.
Yep.
So we're going to reduce revenues by about $386,000. which is more than offset by a reduction in overall expenses. Namely CIP.
Right, I was gonna say, but that 355 that was jumped from last year, this year was due to the contribution, so, yeah.
The CIP had some changes, not a lot of difference in what we were going to do, what was on for next year. Changed a couple priorities. And then we tried to get a lot more accurate expense with operation and maintenance expenditures. Instead of just taking a flat percentage increase,
Right, in the past.
we looked at them very
Always.
individually and looked at a history of what we had, so to be more accurate.
We'll see.
A giant spike in some chemical costs could affect that, and we looked at it in here, but I think we're at a safe number. That's what I think.
So total expenses dropped by over 492,000, which, as I said,
Easily approvable budget, right?
We should do that every year.
no deficit there. Yeah. Thank you, Rich. And this assumes no rate increase.
Correct.
You better launch it. He's gonna be running for the mayor here.
I have no desire to ever be an elected official again.
Yeah.
I did that one time, but it's tough.
No, I've got more fear of this former mayor over here.
No. Watch her cure me of that. Believe me.
Somebody with experience.
Yeah. Sneaking in.
I love the no rate increase as much as anybody. Is that sustainable? Everything we have to, like, first I noticed whatever our big project was there, we reduced it by almost $790,000 for projects. Are we able to?
Yeah, that was from, we kind of had excess this year, but DFM predicted a 2% rate increase next year. And we still have quite a few big projects in the line. There's a couple best management practices out there, and Kevin has talked about it previously, where we're trying to get to a place where we identify our biggest needs. And for large projects, it's been discussed to do like our big ticket items and try to use some of our own money and SRF money to try to minimize the hit on rate increases, to spread that hit out over a longer time. But the biggest thing is getting an honest assessment of our infrastructure, how good or how bad it is. So you'd like to see a targeted number of how much percentage of, look at your O&M budget and say, well, how much percentage of that should be going to capital expenditures? And it's a tough number to get to, but the first thing we gotta have is a condition report.
So,
Like I said, I like it too. I
So
just
I
didn't we did none this year, and then also we're
Kelly and I
10 to
talked
15%
too.
the next year or something.
I think it's the position probably of everybody on the board that when we get to a place where we need it, we want to do a small increase rather than wait too long and have to do another big one unless you give me a heads up to get off the board.
I get it.
My very first meeting was for 25%
Okay.
I think
rate increase, so.
the models that we had presented to us, was that the last meeting, our budget meeting?
Yeah, the last meeting.
Or it might have been the one before, one of those last two.
Yeah.
It had 2% the following year, and then there were some 5% increases.
5% out.
Depending on
Right.
how things play out.
So was there discussion about doing like a 1.5? Because if you're gonna do that now, that'll buy down your increases of 5% in the future.
No, there was not a discussion of 1.5.
Or like a 1 or something. Because, again, you start to collect that money that much sooner. It kind of smooths that out. We've done a 0% a long time ago, and we talked about it at council, and like, we did.
So some places, my former employer, it was by ordinance, was basically yearly, it was based on the consumer price index, and then they chose whether to act on it or not. You know, they could look at their own forecast and go, well, we should or we shouldn't. But I I think if we get the right plan in place, and I think our CIP reflects it, a more balanced approach instead of ups and downs and ups and downs. Because the board is very debt averse to debt, and I agree with that. But on our really large projects, they kind of drive 1 year or sometimes multi-year giant increases. So if you look at that and there's that type of project, I think it should be in every 5 year, or in every 5 year cycle, look at that. So as they're coming off and coming on, so you're not going to get over riddled with principal and interest back to the SRF on a yearly basis. So if you get the number we're comfortable with on SRF debt, it would be, you want to look at a 5 year spacing plan. So it's over 20 years, so when one comes on, one's falling off. So that's, I'm going to say we're comfortable about 100,000 or 200,000 towards SRF payments. And then you can kind of budget what kind of projects you're looking at. Because we have a lot of needs. We can do that, a lot of needs.
Yes, there are. If we'd seen a large increase coming sooner in those models and those projections, then yeah, we would have increased sooner. But like Kelly said, I think we're in a good spot with our CIP, and we got things smoothed out where we'd be okay with a 0 this year and a small increase next year. Also part of that discussion was the block rates. So that'll be part of the structure going forward, is really looking at how to get that implemented. I think everybody has a better understanding of how that would look. Some good examples to look at, so that'll be part of it.
I think one more year at the current schedule and seeing our real budget numbers, if we come in this number, is to plug those numbers into their study they had for last year.
Yeah.
And calculate revenues both ways and see what that would look like. I think it's going to be pretty valuable.
Further discussion on the 2020-21 budget? Anybody? I'll introduce a motion to approve the Oskaloosa Municipal Water Department budget for fiscal year 2021 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the budget for 2021? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 12 on our agenda, general manager update.
I have the first is an action item, approval for the wastewater treatment plant operator job. We've been interim basis with 2 qualified people since Royce's passing. And I basically used the city's original wastewater job description with a couple tweaks as far as kind of chain of command and such, but I want to put it up for internally for people to apply for it. I need your approval for the job description.
Okay. First sentence, reports to, you got this person reporting to
2 people.
Oh.
2 people.
Yeah.
Is that the case, or?
Well, it's kind of an either or, but previously the plant operator did not report to the wastewater supervisor.
About having that,
That was a collection shop.
about having this person report to the wastewater supervisor only.
Okay.
Everybody reports to the
Yeah, they do.
chain of command. One other minor item under essential physical abilities, second bullet point, I think you meant depth perception. Other than that, I didn't see any other questions? This isn't a new position.
No, it's not. It's, previously, Royce was a 4, so he was able to be over both plants. And because we didn't have enough qualified 3s, we do have enough qualified 3s and other people also in search of their certification. The DNR is going to mandate that I have to have 2 responsible operators at 3s because we have 2 class 3 plants.
But you're just modifying this current job description?
Sure,
Is that
yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I don't think we actually had this job description in on the
Place.
Right, because prior, I think when it first executed, the plant operator was a city employee. So this is actually a new job description for our department.
I have one, I don't know, I keep reading this over and it doesn't, reports to the general manager and the wastewater supervisor. That's 2 people.
Yeah, he's gonna.
That's what he has to strike general manager, so that
Okay,
he reports to the
okay, I
wastewater
must just
supervisor.
say that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't sound right.
I'm good with it.
And our wastewater supervisor is.
Matt Van Wyk, yeah. The nature of the job changes a little bit of the functions Royce performed. One of the men filling in, or the man filling in is Quinn House. So he still does collection work, and he hauls sludge from the north plant. So I see our operators going forward being a little more involved also with collection.
It says that in the job description, certainly.
So this should be an internal filling.
Okay. So you want a motion and approval on the?
Yeah, I can make a motion to approve with the change to line 1 and job
I'll
title.
introduce a motion to approve the job description for wastewater treatment plant operator amended as we discussed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Job description is approved.
Next item, also could have action, could not, have a request from the Chamber of Commerce about assistance from the water department with drinking fountains and bike path. There's going to the map. We couldn't get a colored copy, but this is there's a proposed drinking fountain area on the bike path by the North Treatment Plant department. It's that light colored square you see right there above. That's their desired location. It's the entrance to the plant. We come across the old bridge that's being replaced, and the bike path is on the left. We previously had done something a few years ago, I guess at Edmondson Park with the same thing.
Yeah.
With some, we installed the water line, tapped the main, and ran the water line to it.
So it's just after you make the turn off of the,
It's, when you go across the bridge, the bike path is on the left, so it's right.
it's right at that
So
intersection.
you're right at the intersection. I went out and stepped it off. It's probably maybe 100 feet of water line or water main that's on the right side of that road going in. So
Is it a one-day job, 2 days?
I would say a one-day job and minimal on material is. But I think it'll be much less this time than what they previously did at the park. I think the park, it was a pretty good run from the water main to where the fountain was. If anywhere it falls down, say we're within 100 feet of a 1-inch polyethylene line.
Any objections to the water department assisting with that project, installing the line? So go ahead.
So the location may change a little bit. we've been working on a project for a while, and I been on the design here, but that bridge has to be replaced. And so where we're looking at running that is actually right where I think they proposed the location that you're about. But
So it may
it'll be in that area, so
okay.
maybe shift over.
Somewhere just off.
Yeah, somewhere. with-
Either way, it's not a huge deal. Not water line.
So there'll be a new bridge out there, a new road.
Is that the main zone bridge?
It is.
Yeah.
It's been
It's the
planned
worst
for
project
how
of
long?
Again, DOT funding, so we had to do it.
Yeah, I know.
Had to save the historic structure and then build this
Okay, I think you have board approval.
Well, I can get off on my building, you should get off on that bridge, come on.
one. We're not, we're all not.
Bringing that to our
We're all-
attention.
we're all on the same.
I was going through it last month, and that was one that got by me.
Okay.
But they'll be happy to hear that.
You need a motion for this?
No, I
I think,
don't think so, no. Plant operations again were normal. The monthly production was up slightly, but our gallonage was also up, metered gallonage. Included a spreadsheet that I've been working on that in part of the 2080, I'm going to give a report to I think here and the council on status and how we think we can improve, or where we at and what's done. I'm encouraged by what I've seen for this is calendar year, so it's not fiscal year, but this calendar year compared to last calendar year, we've produced 18 million less gallons, while we've actually had 3 million more in metered consumption, which is really because we've been doing the 2% decrease on metered sales because it seems so. I'm hoping we've actually seen the bottom, and that may be actually a little uptick on that. And we were down, I don't have all of November's numbers yet, we were down another 500,000 on plant production. So at 18 million gallons, I mean, that's roughly 2/3 of a month's plant production. We've been running 30 to 32 average, so we can start seeing some decreased costs in production. We'll see decreased chemical and electricity costs. The only thing we may have to look at is we've had shorter run times at the plant with sending less water to town as our sampling period sometimes gets a little short. So we're going to have to look at maybe how we throttle back sending water to town so we're still running for our proper sample period. But we're seeing shorter run times at the plant.
4% decrease in production. In the
That
amount of
is
water
for
used. I'm using that 413 from 2018 as my
Okay.
basis for that. 413 million.
113. Yeah, and historically they were over 425. So I mean, I think your improvement, you actually started seeing some last year
Okay.
on production. I can get the historical number, but there's some conversion because the flow meter out of the plant's in gallons and then with cubic feet
Yeah.
in town meters. But by January I'll have November, December plugged in, so we can look at a full year. So the numbers I'm giving there on 350 and 332 is just January to October. But I did see plant production on the MOR this month, and it was down 400,000 November this year versus November last year. And so I'm seeing nothing, I'm encouraged, and we've been steady for about 4 months on loss numbers, so.
Can you talk a little bit about the sodium sampling that
Yes.
we missed?
Got a notice of violation from DNR. We missed our sampling period once a year we sample for sodium. And we've since taken the sample, it's been submitted. We're never any danger, there's nothing wrong with the water, but we missed the sampling period.
Right.
And all aware of that, I should have known it. It started in July and ended in September. It's not one I'm used to. We contract to Keystone Labs, and they send the bottles here, and they're here, and we take the samples. And They said the bottle was shipped here, we've never seen it, but it's still our own onus to know when our sampling period is to get submitted, so. So for next year, we've got a big calendar we're putting on the wall with all our sampling periods. So instead of depending on a contractor, it's on us to submit.
So it was supposed to have been done on September 30th or by September 30th?
The sampling period was 7/1 to 9/30.
And you've since taken the replacement sample?
We took the replacement
That
sample,
came
that's
back
what I'm
fine?
saying. Yeah, it's fine.
That didn't indicate any?
Yeah, it just is, we have to do a public notification, but it's finally right on our consumer confidence report, so it'll be on our consumer confidence report for next year. And then I included a few pages out of, after everyone talked about rate survey, we got an active GPS, and it was actually a rate survey book after that. And there was only one, and so I took the appropriate page out. It's quite a big book. I have it available, anybody wants it, take it home, study it, look it over, but I included the pages that included us.
We also have last year's, I have it on file, if you want to see the comparison.
It's interesting.
So this does include us.
And it doesn't come off so well on the card here because it's in color, and you can compare what part of the base charge is versus what the overage charge is, or the total gallonage. And so, anybody interested in it, take the book and look. 'Cause it might tell you where you want to be on your, if you're talking about the block rates. You can see where that probably applies in some other communities that have, especially on the, like on the commercial water charge. What they're doing on a commercial rate, which is kind of where your block stuff comes into. But then, I mean, some places just have a different rate for large commercial users. They used it sometimes to entice them to locate there.
So there we are, Iowa, Wisconsin. At a rate of 56.70. Nobody's higher. Is that, they're in there?
Of respondents, yes.
Of respondents, okay.
And that 6,000 gallons is kind of an industry-wide number for calculating these type of things, because that pretty much considers an average two-person household usage. We'll tell you a little bit, because ours actually here in Oskaloosa, we are low per capita user. I think much lower than the national average.
That 56.70 is a typical monthly water bill, is that?
Yeah, and that's just the water portion.
It's just the water portion. Any other questions on the rate survey? Kelly?
No, I mean, questions from board, public.
Okay. Item 13, updates from members of the board of trustees. If there are no updates from the board of trustees, we have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, we are adjourned.